Thank you. Miigwech to Jean Goodsky, our spiritual leader, for that invocation. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here.
Next, we'll have approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
There's one addition and one deletion. The addition is by Teresa Morrison with lawn care bids.
Where would you like that, Randy?
At the very end, following Andy.
Okay.
The removal is for the sole source under Andy Datko for the Nett Lake Clinic remodel work.
Which one is that, the last one or the last two?
Let me look. It is the first one under Andy.
Is that the one with the DSGW?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other additions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda with that addition and deletion.
Move.
Moved by Chief. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait, no, what, I approve.
What?
I approve.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Shane. Silent. Motion carried. Next, we have the minutes from the June 17, 2020 meeting. I do have an update from that meeting. We were talking about the powwows, and Jean had done a presentation. Right now, we currently have, what's the date we set? July
10th.
July 10th at 6 o'clock p.m. There will be a ceremony held at Nett Lake here at the powwow grounds for those that want to come, and there will also be some Jean is going to bring some medicine or drinks to this that people can bring a bottle, correct, Jean? They can bring a bottle if they want to take it. There's going to be two kinds. And then there will be a drum there, I believe. And then Gilbert Smith will be here. And so there will be a ceremony July 10th. And so the only thing that there was a meeting of all the people involved after this discussion on our minutes. And so getting it out there, we will have July 10th, we'll be doing social distancing, please wear your masks. And Jean and Gilbert will be here, and we'll have the medicine, the two drinks, and then if people want to take them, they can bring their own container, their own bottle. And then also we will have cups there for those that want to drink it at the ceremony. So that's kind of what's been resolved with that issue. I just wanted to do an update on that for everybody publicly. And then the only instance, if we have a rise in cases of COVID, then we may look at postponing it or doing it at a different time or not at all. So, but at this point, it is still on for July 10th at 6 p.m. at the Nett Lake Powwow Grounds. Miigwech. We are thinking now that hopefully, not knowing how long this pandemic will last, but we do want to have a larger event, a powwow, sometime in the future for everybody. So that is on our radar, but we just don't know when. Go ahead, Shane.
I got a, it's on page 2. It, Shane just said maybe for the next meeting to look at live streaming the ballot count to our band members for the election. Would that be, Randy, would that be hard to do, to set up something so that we could, so people could watch like on YouTube, watch the ballot count? So they could get, basically kind of get the unofficial result? Would that be hard to do?
No, it wouldn't. It just requires probably an extra individual, just putting numbers on a board or something in that order. If council wants to do it, yeah, we can definitely put it in place.
Okay. And I guess my other question would be is that would we need to go to the MCT or TEC for approval for that? No?
No.
I would say I'd be in favor of doing that. It's just, all the other reservations are doing it. I'd say let's just do it.
I think, to be honest with you, I think it's a good idea. Randy, I'm not sure if you can have a person there, and that would be here in Nett Lake, right? Because we have 2 sites for ballot counting. The Vermilion brings their ballots over, right, Dave? Okay, so it'd be here.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Any other questions or comments?
The other one is on page 3. Down towards the bottom, it says, moved by Peter Boney, second by Shane Drift, to adopt resolution 99-2020, establishing the Citizen Cares Act Bois Forte Coronavirus Relief Program, which will provide $1,000 to each band member age 18 and over. And I know that people have been getting their applications and stuff like that in the mail. Do we have a time frame set up yet? I know Kim was working on it, but do we have a time frame? Okay, we're mailing my application. How long is it going to take to get my my check or whatever it is?
I know that there was a concern with accounting that they're going to get bombarded with quite a few applications at once, so there was no basic date set for when the checks will be issued, because they weren't sure of the influx of apps that they're going to get. So I think they put a 2-week notice on there, within 2 weeks. So like if your apps came in today, we could have got maybe, and I'll just use this as an example, we may have gotten 200 apps in one day. So it does take the COVID staff that we've hired now for this fund they have to verify they're enrolled, first of all, and go through the applications, and then they have to do the paperwork to process the checks. So it may take longer than a week to do that, depending on how many apps come in. So I think it's up to 2 weeks, Shane.
I think the reason I want that pointed out is so that our band members will know.
Yes.
Just because they mail in an application, it doesn't mean that they're going to get the check the following week. It's going to take some time to go through all the paperwork, get all the checks out in a timely manner, and then just hopefully that we can all be patient and let the employees do the work.
And I think another thing that we got to take into consideration too is also that the per capita payments will be coming out in early August too, so that's going to kind of add to maybe slowing the process might be slowed down a little bit because of that. We normally get the check at the end of July, and then we make the determination what the per capita amount will be for each band member, and then the accounting will start that process too. So that's gonna might add to kind of the slowdown too. So.
And as long as we're on a subject, I do have a packet. This is what they look like when they come in the mail, if anybody's interested. It's got your name, it's got return address, it's got down here what it's about. I think it says policies and application in here. I haven't really looked at it. Please, it should be in the mail. They were mailed out last week, I believe.
And there have been comments made about people getting 2 or 3 and jokingly saying, can I apply 3 times? But you can only apply once. And, there was such a, we really wanted to get it out. And so I'm not sure what happened with the 2 or 3 apps getting to band members, but please send one. And if you have an extra one and have somebody that didn't get it, give it to them, because it's not name specific on the applications.
I know they had problems with the mailer.
Oh, yeah.
That was what kicking out some extras.
And then wasn't on the application that you had to mail it in and you couldn't hand deliver it to the office, right?
Yes, the policy is that they will be mailed out, or they can print them off, but they do have to be mailed back.
I think the other thing too is that if a band member or band members don't get their application by a certain time period, They are to call the tribal office and talk to,
Brianne or, Brianne Porter.
okay, all right.
And I do believe they're on our website,
Yes.
so if you don't get one if you did not receive one in the mail, check out the Bois Forte website and should be able to print one off of there.
Just mail it in and put COVID Fund app on it, and we'll make sure it gets routed to where it needs to go. Any other comments on the minutes? I do have a correction at the last, on page 3 at the end. It says moved by Peter Boney, seconded by, it should be Shane Drift. It's just a typo error, so if we can get that corrected.
Then,
Shin. Okay, if no other comments on the meeting minutes and the correction, I'll call for a motion to approve the June 17th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Move.
Moved by Shane? Sorry, is there a second? Seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Silent. Motion carried. I don't believe, do we have any new staff?
Sure we do. We got that, that young lady that works in accounting or,
Our,
Adrian Sokolowski,
okay, for our COVID staff, right?
yes.
Yeah. They're probably busy processing the applications. We did hire some, and it will be in the minutes in executive session because it deals with personnel issues, but we have hired COVID relief staff, I believe 2 or 3 individuals that will be handling just a COVID relief case to help out with the influx of applications and to answer questions people may have, so.
Yeah, we'll bring them to the next meeting.
Okay.
There'll be a few more, so.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, and I will read that off. First item is approve the contract addendum with Fond du Lac, who applied for state funding for suicide prevention education and efforts. They included all the tribes in their proposal, and Bois Forte will get $15,000 out of that grant. Miigwech to Fond du Lac for that. Approve the sole source request from Pam Hughes to purchase 10 iPads in the amount of $9,260. Adopted resolution number 100-2020, Bois Forte quarantine policy. Next one was approve the Bois Forte coronavirus relief program guidelines and application. And the last one on the consent agenda is approve using RAM construction for the food storage building 100 by 100 project. Do we have a motion or is there comments on the consent agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Silent. Motion carried. Dani Pieratos is next on the agenda with the Bois Forte Food Sovereignty and Sustainable Agriculture - Community Advisory Group. Bonjour.
Bonjour!
Hi, Dani.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be
Nice to see
back.
you.
Yay! So, if everybody had a moment or time to read the letter, I still would like to read it out loud.
Sure, go right
And
ahead.
I want to say how great it is to be here. Yay! So as you know, I was helping my family develop Harvest Nation, the indoor aeroponic farm. No worries, that is still moving forward.
Wonderful.
I had an opportunity to work for AEOA as its new food access coordinator. And so I am here in that capacity today to present this letter and kind of where it came from. I was on a board, Regional Sustainability Development Partnership for the Northeast Region extension of the U of M. And this project came up and asked to couple it with Bois Forte for this industrial hemp seed testing. So that's where it started. And then in talking with community members about getting into the hemp industry, and then moving towards, and then COVID hit, we need food production up here, and that was, the intent of that indoor farm model, to have food security, especially in a cold climate. What can we do? And part of this too is personal, because I see and feel a lot of suffering out there in my family, my relatives. There's a lot of pain, and I see moving forward and getting back into our hearts and our connection to the land and the lakes and to each other, and learning we need to heal. We really need healing. And as I talk to people about hemp, especially as CBD is getting more popular, but industrial hemp as a way to have industry up here, and people are just excited about it being a plant and how much we can do with this plant. But from there, we've been having these conversations with our new technical assistance advisor, Angela Dawson. She's with 40 Acre Co-op, and we got connected through the Regional Development Partnership. And her work and background is in the African American community, getting them land access to farming and getting them fair wages and everything. And so kind of aligned there. So of course, with the racial riots and everything on the rise, all of this awareness for having equal justice and equal systems is kind of where we mesh together with the African American community. And so she has that heart for the people just like we do. So I'm gonna jump into the letter.
Sure, go right
and
ahead.
also say, I was gonna package this up individually for everybody, just to say, there was an elder that told me, when you give tobacco, if it's a bigger ask, you give a little bit more. And I would say for the future of Bois Forte, especially with climate change and being able to, no matter what happens out there in the world, we're still gonna be here. That's what, the elders are saying. We've survived so much already. We will still be here, and to make sure that we're here and we're healing along the way. This is the amount of the tobacco. I wish I even had more. This is how important our group feels this is for our future. As they say, America needs change. Bois Forte also needs change, but for the heart, not the greed or anything as much, but for the abundance and to bring vitality back to Bois Forte as we move forward. So I'm gonna pass this along and put it.
G. Migwich, Dani, you can bring it up. Yep, great.
There it is. Okay, so I'm gonna read the letter.
Okay.
All right, Buju Bois Forte Tribal Council members, Chimagwech for leading us through this COVID-19 pandemic, and now the protection of the people during a tense time of racial protesting, riots, and violence. We are honored to present a hopeful picture of a more peaceful future that is critical to strengthen the band's sovereignty. We can provide for our people and exchange with neighbors right from the land and lakes again. The motivator for this group is to take care of one another. We will work with all partners to make sure the projects do not jeopardize any federal or state obligations now or in the future. This letter serves as an introduction to the newly formed community group that is wishing to partner with the Bois Forte tribal government to build lots of community gardens for food production and other sustainable agricultural activities on both the Nett Lake and Lake Vermilion reservations. Sustainable agriculture is a way of farming that is a holistic option for Bois Forte, since it respects the 7th generation by being good stewards of our resources. We recognize that the Bois Forte tribal government is the local authority for economic development in our region and for our people. So our advocacy group also believes in the power of tribal members to make a difference, individual citizens. I think the band takes on a lot of weight for the people, and this is an opportunity to empower our citizenry to rise up and support the band in its efforts. Therefore, the following persons have come together to participate in this group. Renika Love from Nett Lake, Tracy Gijek from Vermilion, and Corey Goodbird. They are meat processors. Renika is looking to get into soil farming. Dani Pieratos, of course. Rebecca Gowboy, food advisor to the group, so she's seen the letter. She is social distancing, so Terry Morrison is interested in working with us. Of course, we know she's our community health nurse. Stephanie Hibden, I met her actually in this room when we did a traditional meal last year. And she has grant writing history, and she would love, or is in love with this concept and working with us as a grant writer even. Rose Chosa from Vermilion, Elder Advisor. So our group is fortunate to receive technical assistance from Angela Dawson with 40 Acre Co-op. Through weekly conversations that started with industrial hemp farming, this group has developed into a fluid start of a beautiful way to reclaim connection to food in the land. It is also an opportunity for demonstrated community support of an industrial hemp farm on the reservation. The future exploration of hemp farming could become a sustainable industry also where fibers, so making clothes, biomass, and oil can be grown here. So hemp can be used for power even. They're prototyping these hemp batteries, which is pretty amazing. You can make cars out of hemp and fuel them with hemp oil. And so we're requesting a partnership for you for help with the following. We need agricultural land access to lease for rent. USDA industrial hemp seed testing plan for a future pilot project. And what we do is, if the government is interested in it, to work with the USDA office, Paul Aaron's Farm Service Agency, to develop a plan for Bois Forte to self-regulate. Of course, it's USDA telling us how to regulate ourselves, but for 2021 growing season and beyond. We'd also ask that the band, if interested, could be a fiscal agent for our group. If we access any grant monies with opt-out clauses, if this group forms into a nonprofit or its own LLC or potentially a cooperative. In talking with Terry and with Jill, we heard there's a Bois Forte food shelf that might be in the works. And so whatever extra food we have surplus, we'd like to donate it with the food shelf and support it in any way that we can. In fact, my new position at 8EOA is networking and doing admin back support with food shelves across the Iron Range. So perfectly fitted for me in my current capacity. And then lastly, this is leading up towards formal participation in the creation of a community-driven tribal food and sustainable agriculture code. So the reason why having an actual code is important is to mediate the interests of the band with the people. And so if we have the people and the band creating the code at the same time, then it will reflect the interests and needs of the people, therefore almost assuring more compliance with the code, and then further trust in that code, and then it's designed to meet our needs. So then we're more likely to follow the rules, but then it just works better, right, instead of the top-down approach. So in my current capacity, part of my salary is funded by the Good Food Guidelines, which is this food policy program. So we're petitioning them to allow me to access some funding for trainings, like to do 4 trainings in the fall with 10 to 15 community members to build their capacity to do their own community organizing, but build their knowledge base for food policy to help create this code. And then it would start with, what is, sustainable agriculture? Why is food important? But then also for that healing component, putting it in the context of historical and intergenerational trauma, so that people can identify with it at that heart level, to recognize, our issues with food. They're not our fault. We had our food systems and a lot of stuff, and our hearts kind of ripped out of us. But now have the responsibility, and the time is now to build ourselves back up. And so that would be in the fall, winter kind of downtime, and then in the spring again, have community input meetings. And so I'd like to help facilitate those with the group to structure in what are the needs for this type of a code, and how and what form of participation do the community members want to have in the development of that kind of code. And we would look at, during the fall, like Red Lakes, model, White Earths. There's out of University of Arkansas, they have a tribal food code kind of template, but then also these lawyers associated with their work there that we could potentially get access to. And so just trying as best we can. It's a lot in a small amount of time, but if that's the start and the minimum to start building and empowering our people to self-advocate, but really, truly, to do it in a good way. And so we want to have our people, and I hope I'm not too guilty of this. You know, we get all riled up about the things we care about, and we show up, and you know, we say our passions, and I wouldn't say give our piece, our 2 cents, but sometimes it's not done, as I would feel, in a good way when we're not respectful of this circle that we're in. So in setting the tone, putting the tobacco at the center of the table, no matter what, kind of like in the powwow circle, you leave that stuff there, and we have this common goal and common humanity. Training ourselves. I like the Blandon model, because he said for leadership, you don't necessarily need to choose a side, which was news to me. It's not how I was trained or grew up. You better take a side. You better, you know, be kind of aggressive and defensive, or, you know, you say brr, brr, brr. And in fact, it was very freeing to know we don't have to be that way. And so I hope that through that healing process, we learn to respect ourselves. I've had to come a long way since my boozing days on what that really means and how I live my life. But to give the space for other people to do that for themselves, but then start healing themselves with this process, and then their families, and then, you know, we can be Anishinaabe really, and not be, you know, not be disrespectful when we have conflict. To remember that, you know, that tobacco and the cedar and all the medicines are there because Creator loves us, and I hope we can learn to love each other more. And yeah, so that's pretty much it and my stance on this. So I hope that, or our stance, I should say, with and it is a very informal group. If these terms, these requests are agreeable, we can put them into a memorandum of understanding. And that too could be negotiated over time. And we can present it at the next viable RTC meeting, just to build this partnership. And I see, you know, if people have a voice in government, in code and regulation, that they'll have more trust in the services that are available to them, because they'll know that they were part of that design process.
Dani, first I want to say congratulations on your position with AEOA.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. I know how compassionate you are for your food efforts and our culture. And we had a Minnesota Indian Affairs Council meeting on Friday, and a lot of the other tribes, and I have information from the Oneida tribe I'd like to give to you.
Yes.
A lot of tribes are doing food sovereignty. And I think one of our, I don't want to say one of our issues, but one of our things is, who can we pile this project onto within our organization for another job duty? What I like about your concept, it's community driven. And you've got a great bunch of people on your board here, or your community, group?
Advocacy group, yeah.
And, you know, it's basically kind of what the council's been talking about with, like, Shane and Chief have been talking about, is the industrial hemp. We have been in contact with Red Lake. We do have their ordinance, and we do have some of the information. Tribes are willing to share their information. You know, we know that Red Lake's already done their USDA plan, and so they're ready to move forward and looking at that. But so we've got the contacts and the information. Like, I know that Mille Lacs has a 40-acre apple orchard for their tribal members. And what we also want to instill is that it's a community-driven program, but it's also a way for our elders and our youth to get that intergenerational teaching to each other, and it's such a good, I love this program that you've got. I mean, I'm sorry, but I have a little garden at home that I'm so proud of, because I didn't think I could grow anything, but it's
And it grows, like,
and
who
it's
knew?
growing. But it's just, you know, it's fun, and it's not something we have to do, it's something we should do as Anishinaabe people. And so I think by the community concept, I love the proposal. You're not asking for money, you're asking for our partnership. And that's the way things should be, and I really want to say Chi-miigwech to all of you for stepping up as community members, and you were doing this even without being hired as at AEOA with your own business, and Chi-miigwech to you and your sisters for that.
Thank you.
Because I think we do need to get back to the food sovereignty. We, you know, with this pandemic, we're realizing that, you know, we don't have, well, even here in Nett Lake and Vermilion, we don't have a lot of fresh produce. You know, our ways of, our elders have done canning, and I mean, I had someone tell me that, well, we just did some canning of some venison. I said, really? And, you know, I mean, there's things out there that we weren't taught that could be implemented in here for our youth to sustain our culture and the ways we used to live. And so I just think it's a wonderful idea, and also getting into it on an economic point with the hemp, industrial hemp. We know hemp is a big issue. I'd like to include our leasing program in on this also, because I know that we have to find land.
Definitely.
And we do have partners at the USDA too, that they do have a tribal liaison they hired now. And so I think by collaborating with our community, the state, and the council, it's a win-win. So that's just my comment, so.
Miigwech. Just two more things on the land piece, or sustainability and land. Two more things I promised to mention and to get your feedback on. There's this land trust idea that's starting. Originally, it might have been imagined for just getting beginning farmers access to land, in particular African American farmers, or just people that don't have access to land, to get them land so they can have training and get into the industry. This guy, David Abaz, amazing. He has almost, I think he used the word himself, or somebody asked him, is this kind of like a reparations idea now too? Because he mentioned getting land for 1854, exercising treaty rights on private lands. And so with a lot of people that have land that feel guilty, what they can do is put it in their will, and they leave a legacy. And then you can put these conservation easements on it. And somebody on this call had mentioned housing for the other project, or it's kind of the same thing, just different programming for 1854. And I was like, oh, we could do housing, but it could be seasonal housing. And maybe it's like an immersion experience, and it's like a timeshare. We could have Ojibwe-styled housing, modernized housing. I don't know what that exactly. I was talking to Chief before, if I could have a giant Wagonagon, like I'd be so happy. And so I'll keep you guys updated on that. Lobbying for Grand Portage, Bois Forte, and Fond du Lac potentially to have like a trustee role in that type of setup, and it's just starting. And so miigwech to David and the people around him for supporting that and taking it forward. We're not meeting again for another 6 weeks. And then the other thing in this whole sustainability realm, you know, with agriculture, you still need power. And so solar, an opportunity to get Bois Forte citizens trained for solar. There's this project called Solar Commons that is happening in Virginia, and it's part of this community trust model that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. But what they do is they put solar arrays on a commercial business, and then the business promises their savings to a community project. And so it's designed right now for those monies to go into the Rutabaga project and do a community kitchen. But what we're lobbying for, and they actually approached us just by knowing me through AUA stuff, is, inviting Indigenous peoples into this project somehow. So as a beneficiary, kind of like the community kitchen, we're asking them to design a training program, and they're reaching out to Solar Bear with Robert Blake, Red Lake, to see if when they're installing that new array, it'll be on Hellion, which is a solar company in Mountain Iron. They're manufacturing solar panels around here. I was like, wow, I didn't even hear this because I don't read the paper. I should. So if we could get our citizens trained in solar, because even when Enbridge was here, I went and walked around little workshops and kind of talked to them as I wonder why can't we be leaders?
Right.
Why are we always, I don't want to say always, but it feels like we're the last to move forward on certain development trends, and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think with solar, we'd want to be the leaders in that with our hearts, knowing we're doing our best to do it, as we say, in a good way. So as a part of this whole sustainability framework, the food stuff, of course, food and ag, solar power, and then this land trust idea that would give our people access to private lands for hunting, fishing, gaming, and we could, provide through 1854 training so that we actually know how to do these things, especially with climate change and everything, and how we might adapt some of our, I hear the moose might go away, which scares me because I just started eating it. If it gets too hot for them, they can't survive.
It is too hot.
Yep, so, yeah,
Any
we
other
got,
comments?
yeah, figure something out. Sorry, I know I took a lot of time
that's
talking
okay.
so much. I will be quiet now. I used to
Okay.
be so shy.
Any other comments for Dani?
First off, I'd like to say congratulations to you and your group for, getting this idea, but also taking action and putting it into motion. That's what it really takes, is taking this idea and running with it. And I must commend you on it. That's good. That's great. Questions? The first bullet underneath we are requesting partnership with you for help with the following. You need land. Did you run this by the leasing department?
Yes, and that's kind of where this more formal ask has come from. We were trying to, there's land by the Y store that the band owns, I'm pretty sure. And so I went out there, took like a screenshot of the GPS where we were at, but then I was asked to go and find what lot or plot, and I don't have experience in land. And I didn't really think that, if I could identify it, if we could get help with the land stuff on the other side. So,
Well,
Yep.
I know some of the things that we talked about before was that we were looking at doing a hemp farm, and also I would like to do medical marijuana as well. Put it in a big building, grow it year round. And the other thing too that was brought up, I think it was Kathy that brought it up, was that selling them oils, the CBD oils and stuff like that. And we're thinking of maybe putting a little store right across from the Y store in Orlando over there somewhere. So, but yeah, I think that you guys keep moving forward on that, and if we can help, we'll definitely try and help. And then I think we as a tribal government, tribal council, we need to start moving on this too, because this market's going to be flooding pretty soon, and we got to get in and do something.
and the idea too with the CBD oils, Miigwech Shane, there's the market for it and the concept in listening to Winona LaDuke. We got alcoholism, guilty, no longer, knock on wood, opioids, and talking with some of the youth that are sobering up, or not, but in talking about this idea, what if we had other medicines, and taught to respect the medicines too. They're like, that'll work. Because a lot of my generation or even younger, they're sick of it themselves, and they're hurting, and it's so hard to watch. And, you know, that's kind of where, you know, with the hemp idea, we don't need to be living like that. And our own family members are out there, and there's nowhere to go for them. And they're in a lot of pain, and they don't even have a sober mind to make a okay decision for themselves, and they're beating each other up, and I just can't sit back and watch it anymore without trying to do something. Because they're so beautiful. And, you know, we neglect their beauty by not doing enough for them. And that's not who we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be like the greedy West that just leaves no spaces for the vulnerable and just say, oh, poor them. We gotta do something. And so with, you know, if it's CBD or whatever those other medicines are, a different way, a different model, that when people are ready, or maybe they'll never be ready, but we can offer an alternative medicine for their hearts, so that, you know, I'm worried future generations, you know, second, third, fourth generation FAS, like, come on, like, we can do better. And that's why, you know, with this, if we can bring the teachings back, and to be nice to each other, so we don't
Correct.
suffer in that shame. So I thank you guys and Miigwech Shane for that piece on it, and you know, showing it as a viable thing too. It could afford itself, and meanwhile heal ourselves. You know, we'll still have problems, of course, but at least what I tell my kids is, we got Bijan, which means be quiet, but actually looking further into the word, it's be still, be at peace. So we still wish each other to be at peace, even when we're saying be quiet, but to step back into the circle, into that peace, that let's bring it back to Bijan. We step out all the time, you know, we got 500 years we're dealing with. And so it will take, there's an a woman from Canada, Indigenous lady, can't remember what tribe she said, when their community had a systemic issue, and they collectively agreed to take action on it, they realized it would take 3 or 4 generations for the community to kind of heal from whatever the issue was. So long-term goal, we'll still have issues this generation next, but 3 to 4 in the future. I pray our babies, you know, they're gonna live healthy, feel good type lives without all the pain and suffering that's out there right now.
Dani, I want to say you're a very energetic, motivated young woman, and you're doing a heck of a job, even not even having a, you know, the position yourself. You've been driven, and I would like you to, and I think the council is agreeable to come back with this MOU.
Awesome.
Because this is something we know we want to, and the thing I like about it, it's community driven, and it's got our elders, it's got our youth, it's got we've got resources that we can use, both sides, yourself and ourselves. And so the more we can come together and access those resources and contacts, the better it can be for everybody. So please bring the MOU back. We'll have it reviewed by our attorney. It's a, like I said, it's a win-win situation for all of us, and it gives us, I just think it's an absolute awesome idea.
Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Chi Miigwech. Sorry,
Chi
we're getting
Miigwech.
all, I just let it out nowadays. I can't help it.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's because your heart, isn't it, my dear? Thank you. Chi
Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Oh, good, good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, see
Have
you.
a good day, Dani.
You too. Be good.
Okay, next we have George Strong. That's an awesome program. I'm just excited for it. Meetings? Let us know when those meetings are so we can, yeah, well, let us know. Morning, George.
Good morning.
We have an agreement with Native Voice One for station affiliate program renewal for
Yeah.
KBFT.
This is the upcoming year,
Okay,
and basically they increased the rate, so it's a new rate, but it's within budget, so.
okay,
We're
did
good.
they increase it a lot?
Huh?
Or did they increase it a lot, or what was the normal rate?
Not too much. I think it
Okay.
was right around five grand, 6 to
Oh,
7
okay.
now. Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's just a renewal,
Yep.
station affiliate renewal for July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2021, and it is in the amount of $6,700, which is in George's budget. So do you have any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the agreement with Native Voice One for station affiliate program renewal for KBFT in the amount of $6,700.
Move.
Moved by
Second.
Shane, seconded by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
All
Thank
right.
you, George.
Thank you,
Good
George.
Thank you,
job.
guys, thank you.
Okay, next we have Andy Datko, and for the audience's knowledge here, Andy Datko is a contractor with Bois Forte, part-time contractor till December, being funded through the COVID funding to help us with some of the projects that are under the COVID. And Andy is on a phone today, so I'm going to put you by the microphone, Andy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, first on the agenda, and we have Sue Larson in here, our clinic director. We have a sole source contract with Architectural Resources for A&E services for the Vermilion Clinic, sorry.
Yes, and this is work, there's two components to it. One is expansion of the pharmacy, and that's going to involve opening up a wall, moving a wall, adding a new wall, and there's could be some electrical work that needs to be done. So there's some engineering work that goes along with that, and then in addition to that, some modification at the nurses station back on the medical clinic side in order to get more separation between the lab and the nurses station. And so the proposal is a lump sum fee of $14,000, and Architectural Resources is the architect of record for the Vermilion Clinic, so they have all of the plans and specs. They're intimately familiar with the facility, and so that's the reason for recommending them for this work. And I guess that's it.
Okay.
Unless Sue has something to add.
Sue, do you, no, she doesn't have anything to add. I think one of the issues with the Vermilion Clinic is that the pharmacy is too small. And so this is a way for us to expand our pharmacy because, first of all, it's very small for the staff to be able to social distance, but also it needs some redesigning, I guess I could say, to incorporate the medications. And we do have quite a bit of increase, I'm assuming, at the Vermilion Pharmacy since we've opened it up. So this is a way of doing it through COVID funding rather than through finding grants or other contracts to do that, plus address the COVID needs that are in the pharmacy itself. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the sole source contract with Architectural Resources for A&E services for the Vermilion Clinic for the pharmacy remodel and the nurses area remodeling in the amount of $14,000.
Move.
Moved by Chief, is there a second? Seconded by Dave, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Opposed by Shane, silent, motion carried. Okay, Andy, next we have the sole source contract with Architectural Resources for engineering service for the Vermilion Wellness Center generator.
Yes, and this is actually a project.
Oops, hang on, go ahead.
I say this was actually a project that goes back a couple of years. and the BIA provided funding about a little over that. And so clinic staff and Randy had asked me to look at getting this going again as well. Architectural Resource had provided the engineering work for the backup generator at the Vermilion Clinic and also the Vermilion Head Start. This particular backup generator would be nearly identical or very similar to those particular units. And so again, it makes sense to contract with them for the engineering work. They can do that work for a lump sum fee of $5,700.
Okay. And let me see here. This is one of the reasons I think for this generator project was regarding because the Vermilion Wellness Center is actually one of the emergency preparedness sites for the Vermilion Reservation. So that was the intent, to get that generator in there. So do we have any questions on the engineering services for the Vermilion Wellness Center generator? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the sole source contract with Architectural Resources for engineering services, for the Vermilion Wellness Center generator in the amount of $5,700.
Move.
Moved by Chief, is there a second? Second by Dave, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
I oppose.
Opposed by Shane, silent, motion carried. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here you go, Randy. Have a good day, Andy.
I'd just like to go on record and say the reason why I'm opposing them too is because the company itself, Architectural Resources Industry, ARI, they should have been put out for bid. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shane, for that. Okay, next we have Teresa Morrison with the lawn care bids. Just as an FYI, housing has, I'll let Teresa explain it. She can explain it better than I can. Teresa, can you explain your lawn care bid?
Yes.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, good morning. Okay, so the housing department has a lot of work to do on vacant units. And so I thought that this year it would be much more beneficial to have my guys working in getting more homes back online and available for rent. So I wanted to contract someone to take over and do all the lawn cutting at the SALC, at the elder units in Vermilion, and all of our vacant units. And if you look at the first bid that I have up, would be for Renika Love and Guy Ragsdale. That would be the one that I would recommend because they came in for their price. And it also lists the vacant units that they would be taken care of. So what I requested was that they cut the vacant units every 2 weeks, and the SALC and the elder units weekly, and that they also have additionals of picking up loose trash, the edge trimming, weed whacking, and as needed, any tree limbs or bushes, bushes trimmed back. And then if any other units come available vacant, that would be added as needed. And then for the elder and disabled units on call, so if any of the elder disabled individuals that, that are on our program call to ask for lawn care, they would include that. So as you can see in your packet, there were 4 bids. And again, Renika and Guy came in at $6,000. Danny Lambert put in a bid, and his came in at $7,500. Darren, Yeah, Darren Langren put in one, and his came out, as you can see by the calculation that I calculated, as I understood his bid was monthly. That was a total of 17,280. And and Robbie also put in a bid, and his came out to 11,340. So I would be happy to go with the lower of those 4 bids and then asking your approval on that. And once I get the approval, we'll drop the contract and they'll be providing all of their necessary insurance information at that time.
Actually, the only one that provided insurance information
Right, but these were, the only one that provided was, but I didn't ask them to do that, I just asked them for their numbers.
were the units, you mentioned that, Guy put the units on his. Is those, were those units addresses available for all the applicants?
Yes, they were upon request, I did email everybody. That made a request for what the vacants were.
For me, as far as a liability standard, I would think that this is just me, Teresa, I would have liked to have seen the liability coverage first before awarding the bid.
I could provide those if you don't want to make a,
Because the way these bids are now, the only one that, to me, that has it is Dani.
right, okay. But like I said, if you would like me to, I can provide that additional information. I actually didn't ask for that right
Okay.
away and for the submission. I just asked for their numbers. I was really working to get this done quickly.
Okay, because I would think that, I don't know if any of these others include liability insurance, where I believe Dani's probably
Well,
does.
it would be required.
Okay.
It would
But-
be required, whoever got the bid, that they would have it. They
Okay,
would provide that.
Can we table this until we get that? Are you guys okay with that?
Well, I got some questions first. They're gonna all be doing the same exact amount of lawns, right? All the same exact lawns, right?
Correct.
Okay, and either can the elder budget, or wherever you get this money from, can it go with the highest bidder? Can you absorb that cost?
I'm sorry? What-
Can you pay, if it went to the highest bidder, would you be able to cover that?
No.
No.
What's in your budget for this, Teresa?
Actually, this is one of those, I have approximately, for total contracts for the year, 80,000.
Total, for
But
any contract?
Yeah, for contractors. However, I have in my mind the idea that I'm going to be using contractors to get some of these houses
Okay.
back online.
Okay. Okay. So can we table this until we get all the information with regards to the liability insurance?
How long will that take?
Can
to
you,
get-
we could do, if we have to, we could do a poll or something later just to get it done right away, because the grass is growing.
Right, yeah, and my guys have been doing it for right now, but I would prefer that they focus on getting the turnovers of the vacant units done, completed.
Unless you wanted to vote on it and make it a priority that they do have to have liability insurance. If you didn't ask for it up front, because they're sole proprietors, they would not need any workman's comp, but just general liability insurance, which they can get in a phone call in probably a half hour. So the only reason I say that is because all these contracts are starting July 1st.
Okay. So if you want to see if you can get the information before we're done with our meeting today?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
thank you.
We'll just table it for now, or we'll just, and then when you come back, we'll put it back on the table.
Okay,
We'll wait for you to come back.
all right.
Okay, thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
Okay. Randy Long and Joel Estelford.
We have the lottery for placement of names on the ballot for the upcoming tribal election, and how the tribal council would like to proceed with that.
Okay. Dave?
Well, the way we're gonna do it is, well, we already did it once earlier this year when, we had the primary election, and so we have to do the same thing. We just have to, draw the names out of the basket here, and that'll be the order of, you know, the way they'll look on the ballot. So the first one would be for the chairperson, and there's two candidates, and one is the current chairperson is Catherine Chavers, and the other person that's going to be running is Miranda Vilburn Lilia is how she has her name spelled, but we're going to have somebody come up and draw a name the way they order it. So. Shane, okay.
I did have a quick question about that too. Who's that person, that loose rock running out there? Didn't you see his campaign sign down at the end of the driveway?
The first name that was drawn out was Miranda Vilburn Lilia, so she'll be the first one on the ballot, and Kathy will be the second name on the ballot. So, okay, now we have for the District 1 position, which is Morrison is the incumbent, and Tara Vizek will be the person running against her, so we'll need to have Shane come up and draw the name again. In his exercise. Tara Gizik is the first name drawn, and so Tara will be the first one on the ballot, and Travis will be the second name. So, see? Okay. Okay, that's all we had. So, and then we're going to have to get a letter out to the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Executive Director Gary Fraser on how the names will be listed on the ballot, and so if we could get that out to him right away by the end of the day, so because they'll have to get the names on the ballot printed so we can get the election underway. Go ahead.
Move.
Second.
Aye.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Thank you, sir. Basically, with 4th of July coming up, we want to make sure that people use masks. Unless you're, my apologies, I had my microphone shut off. Unless you have the situation, you really don't realize anything until it happens to you or a family member or someone close to you. And so what you do, these masks, like Terry said, Terry Morrison said, are not for us to be protected from you, it's for us to be protected from giving you something, because you don't know if you have it. And so the more prevention we can do, I really encourage people to use your mask, social distance, and wash your hands. And remember, because what your actions are can affect those that you've been in contact with. I want to say a big thank you to Terry Morrison, our community health nurse, and Terry Defoe. They're the ones leading us in this pandemic as a tribal council. They've done a great job, and again, they're the ones that we are using as our resources to deal with this pandemic, because the council doesn't know it's our health people, our public health nurses, the CDC, and the MDH. So please, with the holiday coming up, practice your social distancing, using your mask. We don't want to see an increase of cases. And so we want you all to have a great holiday. And thank you all for listening. Chi miigwech. Have a good holiday, and meeting adjourned.